Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Uncommon Commentators. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Antoine Willis. This is my co-host, Garrett Brown, my main man, my right-hand man. Always love talking to you, man, on these Thursday evenings. How you been, Garrett? It's been a long
I'm
week
good.
for me.
I'm
It's
yeah.
been a long week, and I'm glad you're good. But for me, it's been a long week, man. I've been working so much. But of course, I'd love to hear about your week too, brother. How was it?
Yeah, it's been good. It's gone pretty fast for me. And
Mm-hmm.
the weekend is almost here, so another day in the book. So can't wait to get ready.
Mm-hmm. Nah, I feel you, man. Of course, we got a great show for y'all tonight. Some great topics, like we always do. Off the top, I always have to give a shout out to the people that helped this happen. Shout out to Jay Holloway, Raina Holloway, any person that does anything with the XSC Media. Always love working with y'all. Shout out to Lolivia as well. Great girl. She's always giving amazing takes on college basketball for women's college basketball, WNBA, all that. Nick Andre as well. Of course, they have a show together called the Best Damn W Show. They're a world-renowned women's basketball show, but of course, they can talk about anything. Being professional basketball heads, So always love giving a shout out to them and love my main man Wiley as well. Got to give a shout out to Wiley, who also is a as he announces himself, most definitely. He's also the producer for the Best Damn W Show, so you guys know the great work that he does. But of course, tonight we were going to chop it up about some NBA. One of the biggest topics in the league right now is Devin Booker of the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, we know that they're struggling as of late, given all the adversity they are facing in this latter half of the season. But I really wanted to focus on Devin individually. Clearly, a lot of people think the Phoenix Suns might sell the farm this summer, just seeing the position that that they are in with lack of draft capital. Kevin Durant's playing great, but he is 36 years old, so he is getting up there. And of course, Bradley Beal's contract, I think it's about 250 million. I don't know who's gonna take that on willingly. Of course, Bradley Beal is a fantastic player. Averaged 30 points per game at one point. He's still a phenomenal scorer, even in a diminished role on the Phoenix Suns. I just don't know who's gonna take that contract. So assessing Devin's future after talking about his two counterparts. I'm really interested to see the move he'll make. Obviously, he's been in Phoenix for a very, very long time. They built this team around him. Even getting Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant, it was to get him some help originally. Of course, they made the finals at one point where they lost to the Milwaukee Bucks, but they haven't really been able to recapture that same success. They've actually fallen very hard since then after seeing their finals appearance. So as of right now, according to Bovada LV, the Detroit Pistons are actually the favorite to acquire Devin Booker. I believe they're sitting at a plus 800 right now. Yep, plus 800 to acquire him. Obviously, they're having a great season themselves with Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, all those boys down there. They have an open spot with the shooting guard position with Jaden Ivey currently being out due to a lower leg injury in his left leg. So it could happen. They could make the move. Obviously, Detroit has accumulated their own success right now, just with the core players they do have, even missing their second best player in Jaden Ivey. But I wanted to just name the top candidate for him as of right now. Of course, the second place one is the New York Knicks. They could take him on, even though they already have a lot of talent already with Mikal Bridges, who just hit a game winner, by the way. Beautiful shot to kill the Portland Trail Blazers at home at that. And even that being said, they have a great player like Mikal Bridges. They have Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns. That's a lot to go around in terms of usage. So I'd be surprised if I saw New York make the move. Oklahoma City is tied in second place with New York, sitting at plus 900. Of course, they do have the draft capital. We do know that Phoenix does need it absolutely for the future. So OKC could give them so many picks and players at that to acquire Devin Booker if they did want to break their core players up. Of course, seeing the great chemistry they have, that will be kind of surprising to me to see Oklahoma make that trade. seeing how they're already the number one in the West with the core they have already. In the fourth place was the Houston Rockets sitting at plus 950. Of course, they've slowed down a little bit since their white hot start at the beginning of the year with Ime Udoka. But of course, they're still a great team with a great core themselves, with Jalen Green, Reed Shepard, Eamon Thompson, of course, Alperen Sengun, Baby Jokic, as some people like to call him, the first-time All-Star this year, Alperen Sengun. So, how do you feel about Devin Booker's future as of right now with the teams that I did just list to you? Do you think he'll go to any of those teams? Could you see him going to a different team? He was a shooting guard originally when he first came into the league, but he did move over to the point guard, so Bradley Beal could fit into the starting lineup. So, knowing he can play both positions as a great combo guard, being able to score and play make, it does widen his horizons in terms of the possibilities that he could go to. So where do you think Devin Booker will go? Maybe this summer. They can make a trade, obviously, with the trade deadline being passed. So where do you think Devin Booker could possibly go this summer?
Yeah, there's a few teams I could see him going to, but overall, they seem to be teams that are going through a rebuild, but eventually they want to start making a deep playoff run at some point. So you already mentioned Houston. I think that's a team to be on the lookout for. They could package Jalen Green in a Devin Booker trade because I'm pretty sure not just beside draft capital, we know that Phoenix, if they are going to definitely go into a full rebuild, they'll
Mm-hmm.
definitely want a collection of draft picks and Jalen, a collection of draft picks and young guys. So I think Houston, they could offer Jalen Green and a collective of draft picks in a trade for Devin Booker. So that is a destination for him. I do have San Antonio as well. We did see that they just traded for De'Aaron Fox, and unfortunately, he's going to be out for the remainder of the year with a pinky injury, and he's having to have season-ending surgery on that. So, pray for a speedy recovery on that. But they didn't really have to give up any real draft capital for him to begin with because that was a three-team deal, I believe. So they didn't really have to give up many assets for him. So they could still hold the assets that they have currently, including our picks, to make a trade for Devin Booker. So a pairing of him alongside with De'Aaron Fox and Victor Wembanyama, that is a very enticing young core. Brooklyn, same way. Obviously, they're going through a rebuild, but they have a lot of draft capital, especially the draft capital they acquired for Mikal Bridges, a player that you just mentioned from the New York Knicks. Milwaukee will be a team that I could see simply because of the fact that of the situation they have with Giannis, who is unhappy in Milwaukee right now. Yes, he loves the city. Yes, he's won a championship with them, but where they are currently, they're not reaching to their highest potential. So I could see them trying to make Giannis happy and do the best they can do to make sure that he stays in Milwaukee. So I could see them making another run for a player like Devin Booker. Now, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly how it's all going to work because they don't really have a lot of young guys they can offer, and I'm not sure what their draft capital looks like. But we'll just have to see. We've seen Luca get traded, so nobody never expected that, so anything can happen. But lastly, to one of the teams that you mentioned, a dark horse is OKC. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say this: I'm not saying this just to sound like I'm um, a broken record, but I do believe that for any big name that you may hear, for a player like Devin Booker or Kevin Durant or anything like that, OKC is always going to be in the mix simply because of the fact, to your point, they have, if not the most draft capital or assets, more than any other team in the league, and they have the young players that will entice other teams. So
Mm-hmm.
now, of course, they'll do everything they can to not get rid of their young core. Now, that's expected. We know SJ is not going anywhere. Chet Holmgren's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Jalen Williams, maybe depending on who they're trying to get. If it's like a superstar caliber player, then you could see that happening. But I'm just saying that they have the young guys in the draft capital way more than enough to acquire for a player like Devin Booker. So, but like I said, I'm not sure what OKC's plans are right now. They're the number one seed in the West. So we don't know exactly how they're going to go about improving their roster year in, year out. But yeah, those are the teams that I could see um, trading for Devin Booker, whether that's in the all this upcoming off season or the next. So we'll just have to stay in touch and see what happens from there.
Yep. As we record this, Devin Booker is currently averaging 26 points per game, 4 rebounds with 7 assists, shooting 46% on the season. So he's having a great year. He's still a superstar player, in my opinion. I know people don't like to throw that word around like that nowadays, but we should. Thank you for joining us, brother. Thank you so much. And yeah, hey, that's a real candidate. Detroit is really up there to take on Devin Booker. Like I was just mentioning his accolades, like his superstar status and stuff like that. I think he would fit great next to Cade Cunningham. They'd be one of the biggest backcourts in the league in terms of the size. I do think that Cade is able to play make at that level where he could feed all of his offensive weapons and still get for himself at the end of the day. He's averaging about I think like 8 assists per game. Cade Cunningham is right now, so he is
Nine,
that one.
a little,
Nine.
little over
Gotcha.
nine. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like he's honestly looking good, man. Like I really like Cade's game ever since he was at Oklahoma State. And to think Devin Booker could play alongside him like that, I think they'd get along well. I think just given like how we've seen their personalities throughout their tenures on their team. Like we've seen them stay down with their teams while they've came up and found success, especially seeing the most recent example of Cade Cunningham. I think Detroit has a lot of momentum right now, and I think that's a place where Devin Booker could really flourish. Now to think, do they really like pull the trigger? For of course to end on this topic, are they really going to pull the trigger on Devin Booker? Like, I don't know. He's still young enough where if you want to like build around him for the future right now, you still can. But I think maybe with his patience, like, I think it
I
might
could see
get
it
to
happen.
a
Yeah, I could definitely see that happen with Detroit because, well, we'll talk about Detroit in a minute, but
mm-hmm.
with Booker, obviously, with Detroit, they have it's similar to an OKC situation, but they don't necessarily have the exact amount of draft capital that they have, but they do have a very enticing amount of young players that they could send out. But I think
Mm-hmm.
for just a trio, a young trio of Kay Cunningham, Devin Booker, and Jalen Duren, that's no joke right there. And it's already surprising that we're seeing them as a top 6 seed right now. So if they add a player like Devin Booker and pair those, two guys with them, I mean, they can make some noise. So, but yeah, that could be an option too.
Exactly. And it sucks, man, because Jaden Ivey, I do think he would have to be in that trade package, absolutely, just considering his
Most likely.
potential and what he can turn into. Of course, it'd basically be position trade for like position for position at
Yeah.
that point, especially him at 23 years old, knowing what he can turn into. He is averaging 18 points per game right now with 4 rebounds and 4 assists. He's still really young himself coming out of Purdue. So I think Jaden Ivey also has a bright future. I do think at one point he will average over 20 points a game and take that leap, especially if he's like the main guy in a system. It's hard to be the guy in a system. Like these guys make it look easy. Trae Young, Cade Cunningham, Devin Booker, of course, being one of them. Being on teams that really had to, that took a little bit to build their cores and come up that the way that they did. And being realistic, like I was saying, like I don't know, like I like what you said. I do think it could happen. Like it really depends. Like if Phoenix really wants to go all in on a rebuild like that, because like what really screws them is the draft capital. It's not like they can just have the players they have and just slowly just draft young players and build up the young players while still losing with like the old solidified players. There's nowhere to go after these players.
But I mean, my thing is this right here because I
Mm-hmm,
believe senior NBA insider Brian Windhorst, I think he mentioned it sometime this week
mm-hmm,
that it's most likely that Katie is on the way out this off
mm-hmm,
season. So it's where by that point, whatever trade package they get for Kevin Durant, it's not like they have a chance to
Mhm.
win a championship or at least compete for one, because you're not
Right.
going to get a superstar caliber player back for Kevin Durant. I don't think you're going to get a young star player for KD anyways, unless some team is,
Mhm.
foolish enough to do that. But I wouldn't do that in, where KD is in his career right now. But that's where it's like, okay, if you're going to trade KD, then that's kind of forcing you to go into a full rebuild anyway.
Mhm.
So that's why I say, if you're going to trade KD, then you might as well trade for Booker. But obviously, I think Booker is your best asset right now because he's still young and he's still playing at a high level. So
Mhm.
it's just like, hey, you might as well go ahead and hit the reset button and go from it, for there. So it makes total sense.
I can see why you would say that because, like I did mention earlier, they did make the finals. So, in the Devin Booker era in Phoenix, he did try his best. He was on the threshold. He was almost there. Like, we did see what the prime core around him did look like. There wasn't a hypothetical when coming out of Kentucky. He did go to the finals. Unfortunately, he just ran into a buzzsaw that night, and one of the greatest NBA finals performances we've ever seen in like the last 10 years. You could definitely say so. So, Giannis Antetokounmpo. And like, yeah, even reading this tweet, per Dwayne Rankin, a journalist based out of Phoenix, Arizona, who covers the Suns, he said that the Phoenix Suns could receive 4 first-round picks and a rising star in a potential trade package for Devin Booker. So, I mean, hey, OKC, that sounds pretty tailor made. That's 4 picks,
Yeah,
and
that's why I say OKC. They're always going to be in the mix. Whether if you feel like they will actually make a move or not, it's just for a team like Phoenix that's looking to trade for, well, trading a player like Devin Booker. It all makes
Mhm.
sense. So you just never can't count them out. But yeah, I could definitely see that for sure. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Nah, hey, and I get it. And even as we end on the topic, I always like to ask this question. Shout out to Jay. I
Mhm.
always laugh when I think about this now. When like Jay comes up and stuff. I wanted to ask you, obviously he made the NBA finals with this team. He was there for a very long time since the 2015. So do you think that Devin Booker during his tenure in Phoenix did enough to get a jersey retirement? Number one, going into the rafters.
For sure.
You think
For
so?
sure. Yeah.
Mm,
And I mean, he's been there throughout his entire career, and he's helped led them to a finals appearance. So, and of course, all the accolades, statistical accolades, to be more specific, of course, you take all of
mhm,
that into account. But but then again, it's the organization's um, decision to decide if he's worthy enough to get a jersey retirement. And as I said before, in previous times, that I still feel like the Hawks should retire Joe Johnson's jersey, but
yep,
that hasn't come, into fruition. And I don't know if that'll ever happen, but at the end of the day, that's the organization's opinion or their outlook on whether or not if a player should deserve a jersey retirement. But I think just all the work that he's done in Phoenix and all the hard work he's put in, and like I said, leading them to a finals appearance, I think that's definitely enough to get a jersey retirement. So it's not going to
right.
happen anytime soon. But yeah, I think that they should.
No, I do agree. He made the All Star team 4 times. Made the All NBA team and All NBA third team, All NBA rookie team back in 2016 when he first came in. So I do think he made a name for himself in Arizona. Definitely one of the greatest players to ever don the jersey, in my opinion, to ever put on the purple. And yeah, I mean, it's just unfortunate. Like he was this close, to winning a championship. Of course, they did lose, like I mentioned. But yeah, man, and now like they find themselves at the bottom of the West. They took a risk, they took a risk. Like they really just wanted, like, that was their version of trying to capitalize off the championship core. I thought they should have, kept Chris Paul and stuff like that. Like I really thought like that core, they really should just ran it back, of course. But that's what everyone says. And of course, so much can change in an NBA offseason. And just like going into this season, a lot of teams weren't predicted to perform as good as they are for the moment. So obviously, we've seen a lot of surprises this year with a lot of these young cores really taking a massive step up in competition and taking out heavyweights of the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference, who we've seen be around for a while. So for me, I wanted to ask you, as we roll to our second topic, what was your pick for the most improved team this year? Of course, there's always a most improved player at the end of the year, but I wanted your vote for the most improved team this year. You can give one, you can give an East-West team. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, the only team is Detroit. You know, it's yeah, it's I mean, it's clear as water. I mean, the Detroit, I mean, they were literally one of the very worst teams in the East last year, and then now they're a top 6 seed. And really, to be honest with you, I think that's set in stone mathematically when you look at, because the Hawks, they're the 7 seed, and when you look at the separation between those two teams, it doesn't seem like the Hawks even have a chance of getting the 6 seed, but unless Detroit goes on a losing streak, but I don't know, we'll see. But right now, it looks like that spot is locked. But with Detroit, like I said, they're a top 6 seed team, and to be honest with you, with that being the case, it could be a lock. I think Kate Cunningham would win Most Improved Player award as well, for sure, because right now he's averaging almost 26 points per game, 6 rebounds, and a little over 9 assists. And he became a first-time All-Star this year. So, and look, the last time they made the playoffs was back in 2019, where they got swept by the Bucks for Zip, and prior to that, it was 2016. So it's like over these past 6 years, they haven't made the playoffs until during that time. So now they're definitely going to make the playoffs this year. So when you look at the addition of JB Bickerstaff as a head coach, and the acquisitions of Malik Beasley and other veterans, Tim Hardaway Jr., obviously that has helped the development of those players. So, and that's why I said before that we could see them, potentially trading for a player like Devin Booker. We never know. We'll see. But I don't think that they're going to stop here. Of course, they're going to, excuse me, of course, they're going to continue to develop their young guys like Kay Cunningham and Jalen Duren and other players. So, but of course, if they're going to continue to improve every year, then obviously they're going to look to add players that's going to help them in that process. But no, for Detroit, what they've done this year, they have been very impressive. As I said, they are the 6 seed. They're sitting with a record of 37-29. So they're 8 games above 500. So they're doing very well. And that's not really a team that I could sit here and say that has also improved just as well as Detroit. So, like I said, just to go from being one of the very worst teams in the East, like bottom of the barrel, worse, and then now you're a top 6 seed in the East. Now, of course, when we get to the playoffs, I don't really expect nothing more from them at that point, because if I'm not mistaken, I believe they would face, if the playoffs were today, they would face the New York Knicks.
New York.
That would be a nice
That'd
series,
be
but
pretty
I don't.
interesting. It
It
would be
would.
interesting.
It would, but I
But
don't. I don't now. Now I'll be honest with you. I'm not going now. They're not. They're not going. They're not going to get swept. But it wouldn't surprise me, because especially how the Knicks are playing right now. I mean, with all the talent that they have, and I feel like they should be playing at a much higher level than they are right now. But it wouldn't surprise me if that series went to 6 or 7 games, because Detroit, they are a team that plays tough, and especially with Kay Cunningham. I mean, he's been a tough cover. I mean, even with our own Dyson Daniels, I mean, Kate Cunningham has had his number throughout this season. But I'm just saying that, hey, it wouldn't surprise me if that series goes to 6 or 7 games, but I still have the Knicks coming out on top. But I'm just saying that this is a team that you can no longer overlook or take for granted. But yeah, I'm very impressed with the Pistons this year. Very impressed.
for sure, man. Like even piggybacking off what you said, There's not really any other team I could say. They really have taken the throne unanimously, consensus most definitely. Just looking at the standings from last year, they were the 15th team in the Eastern Conference. They were 14 and 68 last year. Even just comparing it to this season, they're 37 and 29. Like they're 7-3 in their last 10. They're looking really good. Like they're 3 wins away from being 40. like they're 3 wins away from being 40 and 29. Like they're even so good that like the man Wiley has to come on and give a take. Like everyone loves Detroit basketball. Obviously, the Pistons won the ring back in 2004. One of the most charismatic teams of all time with Ben Wallace. Exactly, Rasheed Wallace, Chauncey Billups. It was like literally the re-envision, like the remake of the Bad Boys Pistons when they won in 2004. They even beat the Lakers that year. They were that good. So would love to hear about your opinion on the new version of the Detroit Pistons. The resurgence has been incredible. And they have a new superstar to take them into the future now. So how do you feel about the Pistons, Wiley?
First of all, shout out to Shaq. Shout out to Shaq. That one's for you, Shaq. So, I recorded last night on my podcast, and I called bullshit on Shaq because how do you get up here? How do you get up here on national television and everybody around you are, giving Detroit their props, and you fix yourself to go and spit off your stats, and first of all, you call out the wrong coach because I guess Chauncey Billups bust y'all ass so bad in that 2004 finals that you felt like he was the coach of the Pistons. But shout out to JB Bickerstaff for getting this team where they are, and that's crazy to say, especially when they had Monty Williams as their coach, and we saw what Monty Williams did, especially when he was in Phoenix. Especially like every stop that Monty Williams been, like he was like one of those coaches, like, yo, Monty Williams is a coach that you would like to play for, and for whatever reason, from the issues that he had late with Phoenix and then going into Detroit and just not being able to make it work for whatever reason, it was crazy to see. But then you bring in JB Bickerstaff, and this team does a complete turnaround. And shout out to Azura Thompson, because he's one of the guys that started late due to blood clot issues. So he sat out a month, but as he's come in the game and as a rookie, and he's been trying to hone his craft, like you can tell he's going to be, at the very least, he's going to be an all-star. And he's going to be one of those key pieces for this team, or any team for that matter, when it comes to somebody that you need to go grab a rebound, possibly get a bucket for you. Like he's been showing little by little throughout the season, and he's been one of those key pieces for Detroit in helping them get to where they're at now. Like you said, they're sixth in the East?
37 and 29, 7-3 in their last 10.
And again, for them to only have won 14 games last year, like this, it's a no-brainer of who the most improved team is. And that's no slight to OKC or
like Houston or
even the Cavs for that matter.
Cleveland,
they've only lost 10 games as of right now. And like looking back to last year's standings, OKC pretty much is right where they're at last year. So there's only going to be so much improvement from a win standpoint. Cleveland, they got a few more wins, but they're also about at that same. Well, I take that back. They've improved a little bit more than what they did last year, because last year they were, I think, like fifth or sixth in the East. Mm-hmm. So So of course they've made a hell of a jump, but it's nothing compared to being at the complete bottom of the barrel of a conference and to dig your way out to now being a playoff, not even a play-in team, a playoff team. So shout out to Detroit, man. There's no if, ands, or buts. They are the most improved team for this NBA season, man.
And of course, the second half of this topic is assessing their ultimate ceiling. Now, obviously, Cade Cunningham is extremely young right now to be playing the way that he is with the pieces around him. They have Oscar Thompson. They have Ron Holland, who they just drafted last summer. They have Isaiah Stewart. They have Jalen Duren. They have all these players, and they have a good coach like JB Bickerstaff, like Wiley just mentioned. So, obviously, with any superstar at the top of the roster, also Jaden Ivey. Only forgot about him because he's hurt right now. He is playing great. He's played, I think, 30 games this season, averaging 18 points a game, like I mentioned earlier. So Cade's backcourt mate is also looking great. Got to give shout out to Ivy, the former number 4th pick in the draft. Also, his mom is the coach for the Fighting Irish and Notre Dame. They're also looking good. Of course, they got eliminated, unfortunately, but still a great team, of course. And yeah, man. So with the Cade Cunningham era in Detroit, do you think he can lead them to a championship, or do they need one more piece out of the draft in free agency to win it, or is this core with Cade Cunningham as that one superstar enough to win a championship? Wiley first, Garrett second.
I think that can they possibly get to a championship? Possibly. Anything's possible. Yeah. Now, with the core that they have, great core. Definitely need to add a piece, and it's going to have to be from free agency. You guys mentioned about getting Devin Booker. I had them as my dark horse for getting Kevin Durant. They're possibly a dark horse to get Kevin Durant just because of the type of team. But of course, we know KD wants to go to a contender. So I mean, I understand if that, if he was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to Detroit. But dropping KD with that team would ultimately help out a lot. It'll free up a lot of space on the floor just because of the type of player that he is. He'll, of course, you could still let Cade be Cade. Like it just opens up so much for a lot of people. Of course, I think from a big standpoint, from their bigs, that might be the way I would lean if I'm Detroit. As far as like finding that next player to drop in to help catapult the team.
You would give up a big man?
No, I'm saying I would go look for a big man.
Oh, look for, okay.
Yeah. I'll go look for a big man. But again, the way this game is, you're probably going to have to lean to that small forward / power forward position where they can put the ball on the floor, be able to create their own shot, possibly make the right pass when needed, and figure it out from there. Devin Booker, man. I look at the Devin Booker portion of it, as y'all talked about it earlier, and I just find it hard. And again, hell, people said it with LeBron and Luka about who's going to do what. It's possible as long as y'all make those calls ahead of time before you get out on the court and start trying to compete. I need to see who's all free agents this year, man, because it's depending on who's the free agents, and they have money. That's the crazy part. They have money, so they can make a move or two to get this team to the point where they can really compete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Like for me, I'm sorry, Garrett. I was just gonna even just say, so of course the championship doesn't have to be this year. Like obviously, I mean, again, Wiley said it himself. Anything could happen. They could catch fire in the first round, and we'll see what happens. You know, a young team like that is always dangerous, of course. But I just wanted to add that. Of course, it didn't have to be this year. Just do you think in general that this core can win a championship one day? I think they've shown amazing potential thus far, but of course, I would love to hear what you have to say, Garrett, as well.
Yeah, I think they could win a championship with the core that they have, but of course, if you're talking about getting a player like Devin Booker, as I said before, a player like Jaden Ivey would be a good player to start off with, because honestly, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, and Asar Thompson, those are the three guys that are untouchable in my opinion. So you honestly could add Jaden Ivey and a guy like Isaiah Stewart into the mix, and then of course other players that you may have to throw in just to match the salary financially wise. But
Tim Hardaway
um,
Jr.
yeah, you know they're gonna need to
Mhm.
throw more money just to make the money work. But
Yeah.
but like I said,
Malcolm
I think with
Brogdon.
those three guys, they cannot be included now. And this is just how I envision as far as building a championship caliber franchise. It's just more so where everybody's timeline age wise has to match. So if they decide to get Kevin Durant, I'm not saying it's not a bad move, because of the fact that hey, KD is still playing at a very high level at his age right now, but
Mhm.
you don't necessarily know how many years you actually have left with him. If you think you can get another 2-3 years out of him, then okay, then that's kind of put you in a situation where okay, if Katie can play this way for the next 2-3 years, then it's kind of where okay, you have to win right now. So meaning that okay, once you add Kevin Durant, then it's like okay, what else are you going to do? Because I think that they need to add just a little bit more just to solidify their chances of winning a championship. Because when you look at teams like Cleveland or Boston or even New York, even though that they're not playing at their highest potential right now, but that's still a tough team when they're fully healthy. So I just think if they're going to add Kevin Durant, they need to add just a tad bit more. I'm not saying they need to add another superstar, but I just think
Mhm.
that
Right.
okay, once they do that, then they probably need to add more bench depth, because again, you're giving up potential. Well, probably you're going to have to give up Jaden Ivey and then possibly Isaiah Stewart and then other guys that you have to match salary. So that could be a Malik Beasley or a Tim Hardaway Jr. So you need to refill that as well. But no, I think that a Kevin Durant or a Devin Booker, but I think to me a Devin Booker trade would make more sense because he still fits with their timeline. He's still young. I still think for Cade Cunningham, he's a guy that's able to get other guys involved and still get his. And then Devin Booker, unlike his situation with him and Bradley Beal, at least when they first started playing together, that trade didn't make sense because both guys technically are not able to do what they do at best. So Booker, he's able to play at his natural position at the two and be able to do what he does, which is catch and shoot threes and do other things that he does to score the ball. So I think he would be more comfortable in that position rather than being a secondary ball handler or anything like that. So of course, Cade Cunningham, he'll be the guy that'll be in charge of all that. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think either one of those players would be nice to add.
All right. So real quick,
You're
aside
fine.
KD and Booker, so here are a few names that will be free agents going into the offseason. So we got Miles Turner, Karis LeVert, Brandon Ingram. They're all unrestricted free agents. You have Cam
Harris is
Thomas.
unavailable. He's coming back.
I said,
I'm
nope,
just
nope,
playing.
nope. Please,
I just playing. I just
please,
playing. I just playing. I
please.
just playing.
Of course, we'll talk
I
about
would,
that
I,
in a
I would,
few.
I would love to have Karis LeVert back, but I mean, I'm not the
Please,
GM, but hey, he'll be a nice addition.
please.
I just got jumped. Y'all ain't see that. Y'all ain't see it.
Uh,
We
Nah,
got
it's not bad.
Brandon Ingram, like I said, unrestricted. So then we got Cam Thomas, Jonathan Kuminga, Josh Giddey. Uh,
Well, just to say this here for the record, Brandon Ingram, he did sign an extension with Toronto when he got traded there.
yep.
okay,
Yeah, so he may not. Yeah, so well, honestly, I don't know what they're gonna do. They may actually keep him, but or unless they that was some sort of smoke screen where they could trade him to get more pieces back. But yeah.
James Harden got Kyrie. I feel like Kyrie may stay with Dallas, but Kyrie, not putting LeBron in there. Chris Middleton, Julius Randle, Russell Westbrook. Then you got also John Collins, Dorian Finney-Smith, Kelly Oubre, Bobby Portis, Nas Reed, Duncan Robinson, Fred VanVleet,
Garrett Temple. And also I think
hey, keep getting them checks, Garrett.
Oh, for sure, most definitely. Hey, pushing 39, and he's still here.
No, but like with those names, like with just those names that I rattled off, like who I would say who in that list could you possibly see with that compare it with Detroit to help them?
They could definitely. I mean, I don't think that they need. Well, it just depends on who's in the trade package. So, but I just think that more than likely they would need more.
Those are just free agents. Those are just free agents. So.
Right. I'm just saying, like, I just think that for me, I think they're more than likely they'll need to add more front court depth. So therefore, I think I could see them signing a Bobby Portis or a John Collins, maybe John Collins because he's younger than Bobby Portis, I believe. I mean, they could add Chris Middleton, but he's injury prone. He's not really trustworthy. But Jonathan Kuminga, I think he's unrestricted. I thought he was restricted free agent.
Yeah, he's a restricted. He's
restricted. Okay, yeah. So I mean, for a guy like Jonathan Kuminga, I now that can happen too because Golden State, and honestly, I think he would be nice on the Hawks, but that's another conversation. But I think with Golden State, they just had a lot of trouble. with coming to an extension with him. So I think they'll have some challenges. So if a team happens to throw an offer sheet that's going to make Golden State think twice, then I think that's where you're at in advantage. But of course, you're not really going to break the bank for a guy like Jonathan Kuminga. But I mean, they could do so if they are able to, clear some space. If they decide
how long they want to get.
Yeah, and Jonathan Kuminga, I mean, he's really good. He's a really good 3-point shooter, a really good 3-and-D guy, very athletic. So I can see that happening too. But but general, I just think they need to add more front court depth to their bench after if they do trade for a guy like Devin Booker, then that's where they need to go.
Yep, like some upcoming centers, they could get Steven Adams, like Miles Turner, of course. I don't know if I see him ever leaving Indiana. I think he loves Indiana for sure. He actually still has his original rookie card. I showed a picture of it that they used to get access to the gym. It's like completely deteriorated. That's how long he's been on the team. Clint Capella, of course, coming out of Atlanta. He has not reached an extension with the Hawks yet at all. There's not even been no word of it. And he just got paid $22 million last year from Atlanta. So we'll see if they actually want to take on that contract. He has regressed, absolutely, but he's still averaging about 9 points and 9 rebounds a game right now. And he's only 30, so he's still definitely at least a good backup center for sure. I think that's the level he's at right now, in my opinion, a backup center. Not, of course, subjecting him to so. He could definitely start for other teams, but I do think that Jalen Duren would definitely start over Clint Capella. Like I mentioned, Steven Adams, and I think those are the best two on the market, maybe outside of Kevon Looney. But I don't know if I see him leaving Golden State. He's been there for forever himself, So he's been there like 10 years. He's been there for a real long time. It's like Dwight Powell in Dallas, He's been like, people don't realize how long Dwight Powell's been in Dallas.
Kelly Oubre would be nice.
Yeah, Kelly Oubre too. I do agree. Luke Kennard would also be a great shooter for their depth. I think re-signing Malik Beasley is a must. And my last player, I think they could get Nickeil Alexander-Walker out of Minnesota, but he might probably stay in Minnesota now. Seeing the core that they have, I think they are all really close. Him, Jaden McDaniels, Anthony Edwards, seeing the success they have found their past few games, I do think they have found their hope and have found their footing after getting Julius Randle this year. So I don't know if I'll see Nikhil leave, but I think if Detroit were to pursue him and pay him a lot of money, he's getting $4.5 million from Minnesota this year. So of course, if they could maybe sway Walker, that'd be a great backup piece as well. And yeah, that's a lot. And honestly, my last one, I would say Amir Coffey. I just like his jump shot a lot. Amir Coffey, coming out of the Clippers, I just really think he's a solid shooter. I think the more depth in the shooting, the better for Detroit. Especially seeing how good of a playmaker that Cade Cunningham is and his defensive gravity as well. He causes so much attention on the floor. So I think Amir Coffey would be good. He's shooting 41% from three right now. So I think Coffey would also be a great piece. And to end on this topic, of course, want to give a shout out to Detroit. Just words can't express. Like, if I was a fan, I'd be so happy, to being in pure obscurity. Not even purgatory, pure obscurity. No one talking about the Pistons for years at this point, and to see them really transcend up the ladder this fast, I think it's really scary for the East. I think they only improve from here. I don't think it's going to be a matter of them plateauing or becoming stagnant. I think they're only going to improve with the momentum they have. They believe in themselves now, and then they're not even fully healthy yet. So I do think Detroit eventually will make a deep playoff run. To answer my own question, I do think that Cade Cunningham can win them a championship. I think they can do it, man. I think they have the core. Cade's, he has the potential to go on to be the best point guard in the Eastern Conference. Of course, with Trae Young on my team, I'm definitely always going to say Trae, seeing what he brings to the table.
I was about to say, man,
of course. Oh, nah, but hey, of course, we're gonna talk about that. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a little bit, of course. But yeah, even looking at that, undoubtedly, Cade Cunningham will for certain be up there in the top 3 of the Eastern Conference in terms of point guards. There aren't going to be many point guards better than him, and having the core around him, we're going to see how it looks for him. But either way, shout out to the Pistons. Any fans that stuck with them, you're a real fan. It's hard to be a fan like that. We rarely see people nowadays just rep their cities and not just rep a favorite team, and that's your reward. You guys, stayed down with your team, and now you're a playoff team now. So now you get to, claim to have a good team and stuff like that. That's the beauty of basketball, when you actually rebuild and go through the pain, and how us Hawks fans did to get Trae, of course. Even as we mentioned the Hawks, we get to actually do that this time around and have some fun with it. They are on a 4-game win streak as of right now. They're looking good. They just beat the Charlotte Hornets in their last game. Looking good, man. So for sure, they're definitely looking solid. Most definitely. As of right now, their next opponent will be the Los Angeles Clippers tomorrow on Friday night in the State Farm Arena. Obviously, that's gonna be a big test for them. They got some superstar talent coming down here from LA, so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, they can get it done. But of course, I wanted to talk about what they have done thus far. Obviously, we know what happened with Jalen Johnson back on January 23rd when he injured his shoulder against the Toronto Raptors, when he had an inadvertent collision with the franchise player, Scotty Barnes. He's out for the rest of the season, unfortunately. He was averaging 19 points a game, 10 rebounds, with 5 assists at 23. He was looking great. He was having a breakout year. We just mentioned Cade Cunningham winning Most Improved Player. Jalen Johnson, literally, not us being biased, purely objective, was literally the second place right behind Cade to win Most Improved Player on every single betting out you saw, whether it was FanDuel Sportsbook, DraftKings Sportsbook, Bovada. Didn't matter what you looked at. Jalen Johnson was right there, at least second or third to win Most Improved Player. So that was our second best player that we did lose. And what happened after that, they had to make some trades. We lost DeAndre Hunter and Bogdan Bogdanovic. But clearly in return, we did get George Niang, Terrence Mann, and Karis LeVert. All three have looked good, especially Karis LeVert, who's averaging 20.6 points over his last 5 games against the Memphis Grizzlies. He had some crazy fourth quarter heroics to get us that victory, 132-130. So just wanted to set the table of the recent current events that have taken place down south in the ATL. Just going up and down at this point, but right now they're up more than down for certain. They're fighting to maintain their play-in spot, which they will likely do as the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. It's going to be kind of hard trying to get to that 6th seed, seeing how Detroit is 37-29 with a clear positive record, and Atlanta is still, I believe, we're 31-34 at the moment. So as of right now, how do you feel about the Atlanta Hawks, our very own NBA team? And where do you think we really go come the play-in? Do you think we match up well? Because as of right now, if we were to win the play-in, we would come in as the 7th seed, and we would be rematched with an old friend, the Boston Celtics, the guys in green. Obviously, last time we played them, it went 6 games. A lot of people thought we were going to get swept and stuff like that. Obviously, Trae Young had to pull off some crazy performances. Even when we lost in Game 6, at halftime, the score was 67-66, and Trae had just had 25 points in the first half. So clearly, when it comes to Atlanta and their struggles, they are circumstantial. They've shown the flashes. Their players this year, Dyson Daniels, Zachary Risache, who has played great recently. He's creeped into the top 3 of the Kia rookie ladder race. He's ranked number 3 right now, but I do think he could definitely take that title, seeing how he is performing. He's the only rookie this season to have like multiple 30-point games the way that he is. And even when he's not having 30 points, when he's having 22 or 27, he's shooting on great efficiency, whether it's like 11 of 13 or 9 of 16. He's showing great efficiency. Dyson Daniels obviously is leading the league in steals right now with phenomenal performances on defense. He's probably obviously a lock for the first all-defensive team this year. I'd be shocked if he didn't make it, to be quite honest with you, seeing the historic season he's having on the defensive end. And last but not least, we know Trae Young. He's still leading the league in assists this year. The 6'1" point guard out of Oklahoma, our very own franchise players. So obviously it's a lot of good things in Atlanta going on right now in terms of the metrics and the numbers and the performances. Of course, the record does not indicate how good they are as a team, especially missing their second best player in Jalen Johnson. So what do you think happens with Atlanta come the play-in? Like I mentioned, they would face the Boston Celtics. So how do you see that going? And what do you think happens come the end of the season? Can we go on a crazy win streak to try to maybe battle the 6th seed? Can we just stay in the play-in? Where do you think Atlanta goes come the end of the season?
Yeah, I mean, of course, they could still try to battle out and see if they could make a late push to try to grab the 6th seed. Detroit, they did just lose to Washington, so they're now 37-30, but still they still created enough separation, meaning Detroit, to where it's making it hard for Atlanta to really catch up to get the 6th seed. So more than likely we'll be a play-in team. Now, if the play-in was today, it's obviously the best case scenario, because if you're the 7th or 8th seed, if you win, then you'll enter to the playoffs. But if not, you'll get another shot at it of making it. So, which is nice. But I mean, I don't want to see Orlando in the play-in. And then if we happen to lose, then I think potentially we could see Miami in the next round, and that's not a team I want to see either. But to answer your question, if the playoffs were today, right, and if we do, yeah, because we would phase Boston. I mean, let's just be honest here, and I would feel a lot better if Jalen Johnson was still here, fully healthy. Then I would feel a lot better about our chances going up against Boston. Now, I'm not saying that we would beat them because they are the reigning champs, but I think our chances of beating Boston would definitely increase if this team was fully healthy. I think that what Hawks fans would be more excited about is just to see this young nucleus with Trey, Dyson, Zach, and JJ. and also a Kongwu of seeing what this core can do together. So, and I think that's still the same case, even with JJ out. I'm looking forward to seeing what Dyson can do on a playoff level. This is his first year as a starter, so we'll see how he does in the playoffs as a starter by that time. Of course, we will see. Even though Okongwu, he's been here for I believe 5 years, so we know what he brings to the table. But as a starter, let's see what more he can do. And of course, Zach, I'm not sure how many minutes that he'll actually average in the playoffs. We know Coach Quinn Snyder, he's more reliant on his veteran players. So we could see Zach still start, but I don't know. He may not get the same amount of minutes that he's getting right now. But no, I just think that for the team this year is just to see what they have in the young players on another level of basketball in the playoffs. And that's all that you could really ask for. And then that gives you a clearer picture of okay, what does the team need to do to improve the roster in the offseason, meaning in the summer with the draft and free agency and things of that nature, and go on from there. But like you say, they're on a 4-game winning streak. They just beat Charlotte last night, 123 to 110. Their next 5 games is the Clippers, the team that you just mentioned. Then you have Brooklyn. Then you have Charlotte once more. Then you have Golden State and Philly. So looking at those next 5 games, I think best case scenario you go 3-2 because Golden State and the Clippers, they are tough teams, even though that Golden State, they are the 6th seed, and I believe the Clippers, they are the 8th seed. Yes, 8th seed. So, but still, those are 2 teams that are tough for Atlanta. But like I said, 3-2, that's probably the best case scenario. Or you could go 4-1, but see if you could potentially beat either Golden State or the Clippers there. So I think that's the best case scenario. But the Hawks bench unit has definitely helped this team win these 4 games of a win streak that they are right now. Karis LeVert in his last 5 games prior to last night's game versus Charlotte, he's been averaging 20 points per game, shooting 55% from the field, averaging a little over 2 3-pointers per game, a little over a steal per game, and averaging almost 30 minutes. And also Terrence Mann, he's been averaging in his last 8 games, 12 points, shooting 57% from the field, shooting 42% from 3, and averaging 25 minutes. So these guys, they've been able to give this Hawks team a big lift off the bench. And that's why I say they play a big part of them on this 4-game winning streak. So if they're able to continue to keep up that production throughout these next 5 games, then then you may have a real shot of getting the 6th seed. But of course, it all depends on how Detroit is playing on their end. If they're happen to catch a winning streak of their own, then it's kind of hard. But yeah, like I said, I was hoping that we will be a top 6 seed this year. But of course, with Jaden Johnson being out, that played in effect to it. But at least I could say, hey, we were close to it because when this team is fully healthy, we were on our way to being a top 4 seed team. So I can't be mad about that. So hopefully next year we will have much better luck. And then, of course, hopefully that will add more depth to the roster for it to be improved and see how we are next year. But yeah, I'm anticipating we'll be a play-in team, and hopefully that will make it interesting in the playoffs against Boston or either Boston or Cleveland. It just depends on how we end up in the play-in. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, man. Like I agree with everything you said, man. To end our last topic, like I agree, man. When Jalen got injured, they were 22-19. They were like the 6th seed themselves in the Eastern Conference. They were looking good, man. They were just fighting. They were fighting like the same time as them. Like all the other teams were like 23-18 and stuff like that. So they were looking good, man. Jalen's like he was having a phenomenal year. One of the times they played the Celtics, even when Trey was not there, he had 18 points, 10 rebounds. It was 18 points. I think it was 13 assists and 10 rebounds. So he had a triple double. When Trey wasn't there, did what he was supposed to. as the second best player on the team and held him down. Did it in every facet. Scored the ball, passed the ball, rebounded, and played defense that night. Dyson Daniels also had a great game that night as well. He also stepped up as well versus Charlotte. I think he had like 25 points and 9 assists that night. So he looked great too. His floater has looked phenomenal this year in the interior. Obviously, everyone knows what he can do on defense. So there's a lot of positives in Atlanta. Obviously, they're more in the future than they are in the present right now, for sure. I think everyone looking at the young core, like looking at our ages, like we know how good this core is going to be. I'm really happy for Trae Young, seeing how all of their timelines match in terms of Dyson, Zachary, Jalen, and seeing all their potential. That core of 4 players. Of course, we still have Vit Krejci, as well, who also is playing good, and Onyeka. But like I think those 4 players, all 4 of those players have potential to make an all-star game one day, 1,000%. Even Zachary Risache right now at 19 years old, I think with him not even being 20 right now, looking the way that he is when he's 22 years old, I think he will indeed show that number 1 overall pick potential. And to think like a caliber of like a player of that caliber next to an already 2 solidified star players in Trae Young and Jalen Johnson, 3 players all drafted by the Atlanta Hawks. It would just be amazing to see them all like just really form that tandem like that, like, and it would be tailor made because, like Zachary's number is 10 and Jalen's 11. And what's 10 plus 1? I'm saying like, nah, Jalen's 1, and Trae's 11, and it just makes sense, yeah, 10 plus 1 equals 11, they just be perfect. You feel me? But as of right now with the present, like I said, they are in a 4-game win streak. Garrett laid out the rest of the games. I do think they can beat the Clippers. 4-1 is the best scenario. Of course, they could go 5-0. Any team can be any team on any given day. But the Hawks are known to play to the level of their competition sometimes. So hopefully just in these next few games, they can really just keep the consistency. That's all we can really ask for right now, that they really maintain their head above water. Don't just plummet and collapse near the end of the season and fall in the 9th seed or anything like that. To stay near the 7th seed, hold your spot firmly, and to see what happens when it comes to playoffs. The playoffs is like a whole, it's the reset button. I get it. Like, you can say that, and then like when the ball hits the floor and you start losing, it's different. But like, at the end of the day, like it's still a reset. It's really called a postseason for a reason. Like it's a whole new season. It's just post regular season, So I really do look forward to it. I'm not gonna give a finals prediction, anything like that, like who I think could make it and stuff like that. But I think Atlanta can give any team a run for their money. We know Trae Young is a playoff player. Certain players are playoff players that, just raise their game in the playoffs, like some fall off in the playoffs, like a James Harden used to, or some players raise their game. Like in my opinion, I always thought Kyle Lowry was a playoff player for sure. I thought KL was a playoff player. Kawhi Leonard as well, I think is also a playoff player. Notorious for going off in the playoffs when ready. Stephen Curry, another guy who's a playoff player. Not all superstars, of course, but some dudes freeze up. And Trae Young is one guy who was known to raise his game in the playoffs. Everyone knows that Trae likes big games and moments like that. So as long as they have Trae and knowing what he can generate with the rest of his passing ability as a generational playmaker and things of that nature, I think Atlanta could try to make something shake in the first round. They gave the Celtics a run for their money last time they played them in the first round. Of course, the Celtics have gotten better since then. But hey, so have the Hawks on paper at least. And we'll see what happens, These are the best basketball players in the world. But, of course, for the Hawks fans, all we can ask right now, like I said, like Garrett said, is that they just maintain their consistency right now and really just try to just keep their composure. If any other injuries were to happen, anything like that, God forbid, we just saw Trae deal with a minor left quad injury, but he bounced back and had 35 points and 12 assists against Charlotte. So, really good to see he's still playing at a high level since February. And like I said, as long as they got the main man himself, the Hawks can definitely make something shake until the boy Jalen comes back. So that's it from me on this Thursday night show. Unless you got anything else that you wanted to add, Garrett. I'm good, brother. Most definitely.
All good here too.
Awesome. Want to thank y'all again for joining us. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Gotta give a shout out to Wiley for coming on here and giving his takes. Detroit basketball. Most definitely Detroit basketball for one more time for the boys in the back, got to, just really happy for y'all. All the Pistons fans, you feel me? We just hope Atlanta, of course, can do the same. Of course, we got some injuries right now, but we'll see you boys in the future. I think the Hawks and the Pistons are going to be neck and neck. Like I mentioned, Trae Young and Cade, I think they're going to be neck and neck in the Eastern Conference for years to come. And that's it for me, man. Thank y'all again for watching us. Thank you again for joining the Uncommon Commentators podcast. Again, like I said, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Always trying to grow out our audience. Love doing this show for y'all. And thank y'all again for joining us. I'm Antoine Willis. This was Garrett Brown. Also, just got one more thing to say. I did also recently start publishing some Los Angeles Lakers articles. So for any of you fans out there that do like the Lakers, I work for The Lead. Same with my boy Garrett. He also works for The Lead as well. Really prominent publication online that covers sports of all types. And I just got a job covering the Lakers beat. It's a pretty big beat on our site. So any of you Lake shows out there, most definitely go check out a piece. Most definitely just put up a piece about what the Lakers will look like post LeBron. So definitely go check that out, and I'm always open to constructive criticism and opinion. So for sure. Most definitely, and I literally couldn't have done that without Garrett. Put me in position, great dude. That's why I love doing the show with him. And yeah, man, I just want to give a thank you to you, Garrett, for making the time out to do the show. Like always, man, thank you to Wiley for taking the time out to do the show. Thank you to the fans who took the time out to watch the show. Of course, couldn't do this without y'all, most importantly. And that's it for me, man. Most definitely.
Yes, sir. Thank you all.
Play some travel music. Everybody's
Most
going
definitely.
downtown on the A train.